Sure.
But what I want to ask about is just administration policy in general. So not that long ago, in fact, just a little over a year ago, in August of 2014, Israel, during the Gaza conflict, was accused of, and in fact did bomb an UNRWA school in Gaza that killed about 10 people, or did kill 10 people. At the time, this building, in fact, the spokeswoman issued a statement that was very, very strong, saying the United States is appalled by today's disgraceful shelling outside an UNRWA school in Rafah, sheltering some 3,000 displaced people. The coordinates of this school, like all UN facilities in Gaza, have been repeatedly communicated to the Israeli Defense Forces. We once again stress that Israel must do more to meet its own standards and avoid civilian casualties. UN facilities, especially those sheltering civilians, must be protected and must not be used by bases from which to launch attacks. And then the sentence that's key here, and this is what I want to ask about, it says, the suspicion that militants are operating nearby does not justify strikes that put at risk the lives of so many innocent civilians. And then it goes on to call for an investigation. So I just want to understand, is it still administration policy, that the suspicion that militants are operating nearby a site like this, which is a school, that suspicion does not justify strikes that put at risk the lives of innocent civilians? Is that still the administration's position?
Well, first of all, I just would like to add the State Department's voice to what the President and Department of Defense have already said. We mourn, obviously, the loss of life at the Doctors Without Borders Médecins Sans Frontières hospital in Kunduz, which occurred on October 3rd. It goes without saying these doctors perform heroic work throughout the world, including in Afghanistan. And our thoughts and prayers are with the families, friends, and colleagues of those affected by this tragic incident. You're asking about whether our policy has changed. We always take great care, and we are very adamant about stating when we see elsewhere attacks in areas where there could be civilian casualties to avoid civilian casualties. That obviously stands. There's no other, frankly, country or government that takes greater care to investigate incidents like this, to hold folks accountable, and to try to take every measure possible to avoid civilian casualties. What we're looking at right now in terms of what happened in Kunduz, the facts are still emerging. There's, I think, now 3 investigations underway, one by the Department of Defense, one by Resolute Support, and I think one joint Afghan and U.S. Investigation. So we'll let those investigations run their course. But generally, these are difficult situations. It was, I think, General Campbell spoke to this as well, saying that it was an active combat zone, and just trying to put that in the framework that they were called in to, that there was, airstrikes were called in, without necessarily even saying that these were the airstrikes that hit that hospital, because we don't know yet. We're still collecting the facts.
Well,
but in speaking to your specific question, of course we take every measure possible, and would encourage any government in the world to take any measure possible, every measure possible to avoid civilian casualties, even when that involves close quarter combat.
Right. I understand that,
Yep.
and I understand. But my question was not about the idea, and I'm not challenging the
Yeah.
idea that that the military makes every effort to avoid civilian casualties. What I'm most curious about is that this statement said the suspicion that militants are operating nearby does not justify strikes, and the military said that it was called in because the Afghans asked for it. But MSF says that they had been given the coordinates, much in the same way the IDF had been given the coordinates of the school in Rafah. So the question is, and I realize this is under investigation, but the question is, if if the suspicion that militants are operating nearby does not justify strikes on a humanitarian facility for which the coordinates had been given That it seems to have changed.
It's just, look, Matt, I think it's safe to say that, this attack, this bombing was not intentional. I can't get into what may or may not have happened on the ground, whether the coordinates were known, whether they were acknowledged. It's just too much speculation at this point. So
Okay.
you'll hopefully give me a pass if we wait for the investigation to run its course.
And that's fine, I understand it. But in the case of the Rafa situation, you called for a full and prompt investigation of this incident as well as others
Right.
like it. That statement began by saying that the U.S. is appalled by the disgraceful shelling. That's before an investigation had even happened. So can you say now, knowing what you did, that this shelling of this hospital was disgraceful and appalling?
Again, I would only just reiterate our sincere condolences to the victims of this attack, and just again underscore the fact that we're going to investigate this thoroughly. And as I said, once those investigations are complete, we're going to take steps to either to hold any responsible parties accountable, or to take measures that avoid any kind of accident like this in the future.
All right, last one.